What's going on, guys? It's Gare Bear and Tivis here with you again with another episode for League of Legends. Um, Bear with us. We really don't want to be here this week. We both lost, and it kind of sucks to fall off the throne, doesn't it?
It sure does. Yeah, it sucks to have your wide receiver one go down that you just traded for as well. It's the worst feeling. So, not really interested in talking about fantasy or listening to fantasy content this week, but gonna have to probably.
Yeah, don't really want to be here, but unfortunately, this is what we signed up for. Got to keep going. Playoffs are upon us. The only good thing about this week is that I did win $20 from you on the water bet with Greco,
Hmm.
which I'm down
Yeah,
to just keep that rolling in the next week if you want. Maybe
yeah.
put
We'll
some more.
maybe we'll take another little wager. That game was I was telling you about it a second ago, but I was watching the fantasy matchup in the app in the last quarter in the overtime of that game, and Crater had Mixon and T Higgins, and I was just like hoping for a couple more catches from Higgins, and so that was unfortunate, but I was like sweating out somebody else's fantasy matchup. I've never done that really, so it kind of makes it more interesting watching everyone else's matchups when we put bets on it too. That's kind of cool.
I know. I would almost like rather just be a bookie for our fantasy league than anything.
That would be really cool actually. We even have the spreads in here, so like you could do it pretty easy, honestly.
Yeah, that's TM net right now. Yeah, that's bookies in your own fantasy league. That's a Gare Bear
Yes.
Davis invention. So
Yeah.
standings preview here. I've fallen out of, like I said, the throne here from first to second place tie with Grayson. First place is Tivis and Wiley at 9-4. Wiley's team is just rolling through right now. Tivis did take a big loss with Tank Dale going down. But he beat me last week. Panko waxed me this week, so now I'm in second place, tied with Grayson at 8-5. Weaves and Hartzell at 7-6 and third. Um, Dang, Hartzell in third place, man. That's crazy, dude. I've been
Yeah,
seeing
I
him
know
down
it's
in fifth
crazy.
place, and that's what happens, dude. So, Panko and Crater tied at fourth here. And it's wild that Crater has lost five in a row and is still in fourth place. You know what I mean? Fighting for a playoff
Yeah,
spot. G Scott and
yeah.
Fish coming in at fifth, tied at 5-8, and then Bryson Greco at 4-9 in sixth place. So we have a two-way tie for last place right now. It's kind of wild. Um,
And just a refresher, how does the loser work? Is it the last place in the regular season? Is it the last place in the loser bowl? How does that work? I was trying to remember that today.
yeah, it's last place in regular season.
Okay.
The tournament part doesn't matter, in my opinion. I don't think that should matter as much. So, because at some point you mentally quit, right? Like I
Yeah.
remember last year I fought tooth and nail just to not come in last place, dude. Because my team, I got hammered all year, all year. Um, so it is still stressful, but in a negative way because you're not like winning games. You're like
Yeah.
sneaking out games and stuff, just trying to not lose. Um,
Yeah. Well, I
but
think I think we should try and find out a way to format it to where playing in that loser tournament isn't you somehow incentivize that because it's the same thing like if you know you're eliminated already like you're probably going to be last in this year it's different because we have guys fighting for last but if you know you're already eliminated you're just going to give up but if you know you have to your performance in that tournament will determine your place then you might want to play a little bit better towards the end of the year. I don't know, like it's the same thing with our playoffs, like just
yeah,
because you get in doesn't mean you win, you just still have to get through the playoffs. So I think doing the same thing
yeah.
for loser would be a cool idea, but I don't know.
Well,
It'd be kind
I
of
was just what if we let like what is it? Is it fourth? Would it be well, I guess who would because the top four go to playoffs and then third gets their money back and then it's 400 to first and then 150 to second, right?
I
And
think that's
fourth
right.
gets
I think that's
nothing.
right. I
So
think
would
that's right.
fourth
Yeah.
get nothing but fifth and sixth would get something? Because they
I'm
would
not saying we get something, but I'm just saying like somehow you like, if you are
yeah.
the first eliminated in the tournament, then you're like the ultimate loser or something like that. I
No,
don't
I
know.
get what
Something
you're
like
saying.
that.
Maybe
Yeah.
we let them like split their money back or something like that. Both of them get $25 or whatever.
Yeah.
No,
Something
no,
like that.
we can figure something out.
Yeah.
Week 13 recap. So Weaves and Clayton. Weaves put up 170 on Clayton this week. You want to touch on this one? I'll let you kind of.
Yeah, I'll take the wheel for this one. It hits pretty home. Yeah, 170, 120, 50 burger on me. It's like that's not one of the biggest spreads, but that's never fun to be on the receiving end of that. Like
Yeah,
if you get beat by 50, it's like it doesn't matter who I played. I mean, I had a big injury with Tank Dell, and I had DK go off though. That's like you hate to see that. Like 25 and a half at the halftime. from
Dude,
DK on Thursday Night Football. I'm like, oh man, this week's gonna be sweet. I'm
crazy.
gonna have a good week. Like I'm gonna have a good
Yeah.
week. Got the wide receiver one on the week. This is gonna be sweet going into the weekend, and
Hmm.
then lose Tank Dell in the first quarter, I think. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
swear the games that I've
sucks
had
lose by
guys put
50.
up the most points individually are the games that I end up losing.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And so now I'm sitting here like I was sitting at my work yesterday, looking at my roster, just like, dude, I'm not gonna win any game. Like, I'm not like Tank Dell losing Tank Dell is so bad. Like, I'm like,
Oh
I
man.
still have Christian McCaffrey, but like, I
Yeah.
have my team's built in a way that like, I have some top end guys and kind of a supporting cast. And when you lose Tank Dell, who's supposed to be one of the top end guys, it's hard to recover from that at the end of the season. So
Well, I mean, you did trade away Debo Samuel too, so that
yeah,
factor that in for David. Well,
huge
who was that for?
for Njoku. Basically, it was basically straight up Debo for
Wow.
Njoku. Yeah, because I thought I needed a tight end that bad, but
Thank you for that. That's one of the reasons Pinker whooped me,
yeah,
beat me really bad last week. Yeah.
yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
go ahead and move into that. Pinker put up 190 on me, dude. That's crazy. Beat me by 23 points. I mean, this is the second week in a row I've scored over 165 points and lost. Last week I lost to you by less than a point. That is heartbreaking. That's
Yeah.
like I said, that's stabbing and twisting the knife there, dude. I've taken 2 L's in a row. I don't like that. I mean, we clinched playoffs, thank God, 2 weeks ago. So I've kind of lost a lot of the stress that fantasy football just induces naturally, but
Mhm.
I did kind of foresee this happening. I thought if I could go 1 for 3 on the last 3 games I had to play, because I had to play you, then Penko, and then you again. If I can go 1 for 3, man, like I'll be satisfied with that. But I can't go 0 for 3. That's not the momentum you want going into playoffs. You know what I mean? Like we both
No,
just
it's
like
not
I got the 2 L's, you got Tank Dell going down. Like we're getting hit in the wrong places at the
at
wrong
the wrong time. Yeah, at the worst time. And it's like looking at his team, he had a week where it's like the opposite of most weeks where you usually have a couple guys go off and everybody is a status quo. It's like his week, every single guy just went off.
Everybody on his team, man. Like, I mean, Christian Watson, we talked about it. 3 guys got hurt on his team and left the game and didn't play anymore. And
Yeah,
he still beat me really bad, dude. I mean, Christian
yeah,
Watson goes down, hamstring injury after he scored 2 touchdowns. Pickett didn't do anything. That's okay. Um, and then Trevor Lawrence, like at the end of the game, breaks his ankle or whatever happens, and he's
yeah,
already thrown or scored 30 points, and at that point it was over. But you just hate to see it, man. Panko is
yeah,
on the rise, though, man. I mean that this is the type of stuff that you see. Like you see these guys that are 6 and 7 just leapfrogging other guys because the league is so congested. And then,
yeah,
once they get to the playoffs, they just have a hurricane of a team. Tyreek Hill's
yeah,
guaranteed 25 points now, which is crazy. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, I
Um,
mean, the worst thing about that for you, not really for you, but the worst thing about that situation is that he can beat you bad in this week and kind of hurt your chances or hurt your playoff run, but then he could lose next week and not even make the playoffs. And
yeah.
it's like he's not even fighting for anything. It's kind of like we're spoiling someone else's season a little bit for just for no reason. It sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, that's the selfish way of looking at it, but for sure. I know. I feel that. Yeah. I was pissed about it. I didn't want to do this episode at all, but,
No, I didn't either.
we're here, man. Just like
We're
Jesus.
grinding. Yeah,
We praise him when we win. We praise him when we lose, bro.
that's exactly
All right,
right.
so
Yeah,
we'll move past that and talk about some other one. Nail biter, Greco Crater, 111 to 110, basically, man. That's the one that we were
yeah,
talking about. We had the money on. I mean, I wish I would have
yeah,
watched it because I was not. You didn't text me or tell me anything about that, and I wish you would have.
yeah.
That because I would have loved that kind of anxiety to add to my Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean less than a three quarters of a point. I was looking at it. K. Dotton had 0 points for Crater, so if he had a catch for a yard, he would have been good. And then Terry McLaurin also had 0 points for Crater, so
Two
if he had
people.
a catch for a yard, he would have been golden on the week. And to have almost 30 from Joe Mixon and 25 from Derrick Henry is just
Mhm.
brutal to have that in a loss. When he was trying to get into that playoff spot, but I think it's looking like it's falling out of reach for him now, possibly. I mean, he's got a good chance as Critter or as Panko, I guess, but it just sucks. Yeah, I hate that.
He's still in a spot though. Like this is where you got to be gritty, man. You have to realize that even though you've lost 5 in a row, like you're still right there. You got to win this week. You got to make the right
Yeah,
plays. You know what I mean? Like this is where I'm doing
exactly.
so much research, dude. It's insane. like I'm looking at the weather. You know what I mean? Like I'm listening to like how people were feeling. You know, like I'm watching the Mike Wright Sunday Live things, like the little 30
Yeah, yeah,
like tips and tricks before kickoffs and stuff, because I want to be that. Like I want to eke that out, man. You missed it by 1 point. You know what I'm saying? That's why it hurts so
yeah,
much
yeah.
whenever it's playoff time and you lose by
And I
one.
mean, you're never gonna make this play, but I mean Drake London over Terry McLaurin, he wins the week that week. I mean,
Yeah.
and Terry McLaurin had 0 points, granted, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't account for injuries, but if that was 10 versus 9,
Mhm.
that's the difference right there. And so like it's just those plays are so crucial when you get into these parts of the season too. Yeah,
Yeah. And then, it's also a huge win for Greco because, he's no longer in last place. Like,
yeah,
he's now tied in last place with Bryce. And,
yeah,
they both have interesting matchups this week. So,
yeah.
again, like, we got excitement up and down the ladder, man.
Yeah, we talked about that just a few weeks ago. We said they were all down there. I mean, Greco is down at 3-9 below everybody else, but we both said, like I said, like he could easily get his way out of there and
Yeah.
either tie people for last or just
Mhm.
just get out and not be in last place at all.
That's why I love this league, dude. It's because, you scratch and you claw, you know what I mean, all year long, even if you're not in it. You know what I'm saying? So, um,
Hmm.
and it's kind of crazy to see that like Bryce's team is so good, dude. Like when we do the fantasy losers here in a second, I'll talk about how hard it was to pick a person, but like he's in last place right now, dude. I don't know.
Hmm.
Anyway, so we'll move on down to Fisher and Grayson here. Yeah, Fisher smoked Grayson, beat him 150-85. Grayson had a lot of guys on bye week this week. Had a goose for Marquise Brown dealing with the heel injury. Evan Ingram went off. Devon Achan's great to see him back doing his thing. Fisher asked me 100 times this year if he should trade Achan or drop him, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Yep, please don't. And if you do it with me because I want him. He's a league winner, dude." He's just the only
Yeah,
person that can touch the ball, 6, 7 times a game and have 25 points.
yeah. I
Kamara's
saw
a
I saw
50-yard machine.
I saw Jeff Wilson get dropped in I think our league this today just because I mean there's no I mean I don't think he's seen much time anyway, but
Mhm.
Achane's obviously making himself the alpha.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no value in Wilson right now.
No, no.
Mm-mm. And then Kamara's just soaking up targets. Jalen Hurts is just a consistent 25 point every single week. So Grayson taking an L right before playoffs. He's kind of feeling the same thing that we are right now. I think he's may have lost two in a row, maybe one in a row.
Hmm.
But we're kind of losing a little bit of steam heading into the playoffs here. Hartzell and G Scott, another close game. We've had 2 weeks in a row where we've had less than 1 point losses. We've had a lot of close games recently too. Jake Browning, his big game almost sealed the comeback for G Scott. Jawan Johnson, he was at my house on Sunday. Garrett was, and he was
Oh,
talking about Jawan Johnson because we talked about him on the pod last week, and it was so funny, dude. He was like,
I
"Yeah,
thought you said
yeah."
Jawan Johnson was at your house. I was like, what the fuck? When was
Oh
that,
no,
dude?
no,
That's
no.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, it would make sense because he had 0 points, but
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, he just was giving me some shit about it. Ramondre got hurt too. Like again, year of injuries, man. It's this year has been more like of a slow burn for injuries. Like I feel like you just had consistent, week long, impactful fantasy
Yeah.
injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not like the Broncos, are losing their eighth receiver like they did last year. It's like you
Hmm.
got Joe Burrow's going down for the season. Like I mean, just every week. Ramondre is
Yeah.
out now. Zeke big pickup. I think Greco does Greco have Zeke. I think Greco may
Maybe. I
have
don't
Zeke on
know.
his bench. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So not a great game there. We'll talk about them later. Wiley and Bryce, 155 to 133. Wiley's in. He's just a weekly 150 and up guy. He's up there with us. You know what I'm saying? At the top, putting up big
Yeah.
boy numbers. 150 and up on average. Huge game from Nico Collins. I think Tank Dell being out, you're going to see a lot more targets for Nico Collins, which is bad for us, great for Wiley again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike Evans, Andy Holloway's I think he was a my guy for Andy Holloway this year.
He
I
was.
remember listening to the episode and thinking, no freaking way, dude. Like, there's no chance. And
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I mean, I think nobody really expected Baker to play the way he has. I think everyone's kind of like Baker might play okay, but he's probably going to play bad, and so nobody expect. I mean, Andy Holloway said he's still gonna have to throw the ball, and Mike Evans is still the best receiver on the team. So like, you're still gonna draft him in fantasy. Like he still has fantasy value. He may not be. They may not be a good football team, and they're not. But he's still gonna be a good fantasy player, and he has the 1,000 yards, 10 years straight with 1,000 yards. That's pretty.
It's
I'd
huge.
keep drafting that guy too. Yeah, I keep drafting him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. Jamar Chase again, I'll be honest with you, man. I never draft Jamar Chase because I hate the roller coaster ride he takes you on. Like I don't like the threes, and the 54s are great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the threes, they just kill me, dude. So, but
Yeah.
this is why you draft him, and I think again, correlation here maybe or causation, I don't know. Bryce is now tied for last with Jamar Chase on his team. So Jamar Chase is probably the number one pick that you take this year, and then ends up in last place. So
Yeah, I drafted him in another league, and when the Bengals started poorly, I traded him away in like week 3, and then he had a couple of good games, and he had a couple of bad games, and then he's had a few more good games recently, and who knows what happens after that. But yeah, it is the roller coaster you ride. But I mean, you'd still rather have him than someone that you thought was going to be a lot better, like Devontae Adams or something like that. We might talk
oh
about in a second.
for sure, yeah. You want to go ahead and move into fantasy losers?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Right.
I'll go ahead and start off with mine. It's pretty easy to start off there. I'm gonna have to say mine this year has been Mark Andrews. I spent a second round pick on him. He obviously goes down to the season ending injury, but before that, he was still like maybe a top 4 tight end, top 3. There was a couple week one, top 2 tight end weeks he had, but I don't think overall he hasn't been like a core of the offense like you'd hope he'd be, a core of the fantasy team, I guess. Like, putting up 18 points a game, 15 points a game. That's kind of what you hope for out of him, but he had a couple good games, but just not the consistency you want.
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't been the number one in Baltimore like you drafted him to be.
Well, and there was all this talk about the new offense and how they're going to throw it more,
Right.
and they have thrown it more, but none of the receivers have really benefited from that to like more than any other ones particularly.
Yeah.
Some will have good games, but no one consistently that he just launching it to.
The Todd Monken offense. Is that what this is?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. I remember listening to all that hype too, and then just being disappointed sorely.
Mhm.
So if you're starting with yours, I'll start with mine too. I had 2 guys here. One of them was like my guy, a guy I was like pretty high on all year, leading up to this, and that's Miles Sanders. I
Mm.
mean, just as far as like, I think this should be like the loser is the person you see the biggest gap. You know what I mean, from like draft to performance or expectation, I guess. And for me,
Mhm.
that was Miles Sanders. You know what I mean? But it's also tied with Patrick Mahomes because if I rule it like that, then I took Mahomes with the 101. So he has not been the 101 quarterback. He's the number 8 quarterback in fantasy this year. He's the number 8 quarterback,
Mhm.
not the number
Mhm.
8 player. You know what I mean? So, I think he's had, what is it, 3 games above 20 points all year. Like that's
Yeah.
insane, and he hasn't won me games. He hasn't won me, he's not what I drafted him to be at all. I've tried to
Yeah,
trade him all season. I couldn't get rid of him.
I think it's hard to call Patrick Mahomes a loser in a fantasy sense just because he is still, he's still going to get you. He's still a top 10 quarterback. Like it's still, going to be valuable on a roster. But for
Mhm.
the draft capital, I can see what you're saying. I still think Miles Sanders is the clear, like kind of a bust in my opinion. Like you drafted him to be a RB1. That's going to be a workhorse for a rookie quarterback, and he turned out to be just total bust. Like I said, like just didn't work out at all. So I think Miles Sanders is a pretty clear loser. But I mean, I see what you're saying with Patrick Mahomes. It's funny, like there's kind of a bit of a, I would say changing of the guard, but you look at like Sam Howell's top 5 QB this year, and Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes 8, and nobody really saw that coming. Um,
What was that stat about
like
Sam Howell? It was that he's leading the league in passing yards, and he doesn't have what is it? He doesn't have 1,000-yard receiver or something like
yeah,
that.
that probably sounds right. Yeah, I mean
Something
nobody's
like that.
it's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing with Lamar we were talking about. Like nobody's really getting the love consistently
Right.
in Washington. I
Right.
heard somebody call him the White Jameis on a podcast to listen to, and that makes so much sense. Just like throwing the long all game
Yeah.
interceptions, touchdowns,
That's so
they come all the
awesome.
same. It's
Yeah.
so funny. I heard that. Thought that was
That's
a good
funny.
good accurate representation.
Hmm.
Moving on to Fisher's team here, though. I was having a hard time picking between these two wide receivers. I was looking at DeAndre Hopkins because he's kind of looking at your basis of loser, kind of your draft capital versus your output. A fifth round pick on D Hop being a top 20 wide receiver is not really what you're looking for out of him at the draft. He's kind of had some ups and downs, but I think Chris Godwin is right after him. Was
Yeah.
selected the next round,
Yeah.
and has been I would say like consistently worse than DeAndre Hopkins. So
Has
I
he
think Chris
scored how many
Godwin just
touchdowns? Do you know how many touchdowns he scored all year? I'm gonna look that up.
Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
It looks like two touchdowns, one on the ground, one on the ground, one receiving this year. And last week was his one touch receiving, or I'm sorry, carry touchdown. So he just had his second touchdown yesterday, and it was on the ground. So he's only had one receiving touchdown all year.
Yeah.
Mike Evans has still had a great year, and somehow Chris Godwin's not been able to follow suit or get any of that love from Baker. But so that's
Five
why
five
I
games
have to
over
lose.
5 games over double digit points.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not what you want out of any pick, but especially not a 6 round pick. So I'm gonna have to say Chris Godwin's a loser there.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, I'm going to go with Garrett Scott here. This was difficult. Again, I talked about it earlier. Looking at this team, he's got such a squad. Like, I mean, I looked at Devontae Smith for a minute, but he's had a slew of huge performances lately. It's kind of the same thing he did last year. Started off the year, though, I mean, Garrett Scott was talking about trying to trade him because he didn't like him. And he wasn't putting
Mm,
up points then. But I had to go with Saquon Barkley here, man. For me, just because of the time that he missed with the injury, and also again draft capital, right? Like
hmm
I know. So he's got Josh Allen on his team. So that means Garrett had to go. He probably went Josh Allen then Saquon. I would say. And being the number 2 guy. I mean, I don't know what fantasy running back he is right now, but I would venture to say he's just not been the guy that you drafted him to be.
Right
He
now,
also
it's
had a
showing
hell of
him as
stuff.
23. Showing his number 23 in fantasy in our league currently.
Yeah,
So
that's a first round draft pick. That's not what you're looking for. So
no, it's not. I would have to agree. No argument there from me.
yeah,
Uh, Next up we got Hartzell here. I was taking a look see at his team, and he's got a pretty good team, honestly, in general. There's a couple holes at the running back, but
yeah,
um, I had to look. I looked at Garrett Wilson, and it's kind of what we talked about. Just
mhm,
not what you're looking for out of a second round pick. Aaron Rodgers going down obviously attributes to that, and having this like carousel of quarterbacks in New York is not good for your wide receiver one. You can't really get any good timing or chemistry at all. And everyone else on his team has performed, I would say, to par, if not above. I mean, you can maybe make an argument for Travis Kelsey, but he's still the tight end number 2.
yeah.
Is that really what you want out of your first round pick? Maybe
I
not,
mean,
but
maybe maybe
does it get
Olave
much worse? No.
also. I mean, I don't know Olave's stats of late, but I had Olave on a different team, and I kind of benched him for a while
hmm
because
Well,
for 5 or 6 weeks he was
he
out.
started off the season. He started off the season strong, and then he had a dud for a 1 point game. But he's had 4 games in a row over 16 points. So I mean, he's played well recently. He's had a few
Oh, wow.
under double digit games, but he's played good this year. He's actually been pretty solid. I think Garrett Wilson, he's has 1 touchdown on the year. I'm sorry, 3 touchdowns on the year. And he's been consistent, but just out of a second round pick, I think it's just not what you
Yeah.
wanted to
I
get
mean,
out of
some
that.
people were taking him first round, dude, like with the potential
Yeah,
connection with Rodgers.
yeah.
So, and I
And
mean, dude,
I
even
think I,
without him, like he's been a monster. Like he's still
mhm,
like I guess what I'm saying is with Zach Wilson's talent and was it Tim Boyle and whoever
yeah,
else like what do they call him, Brett Ripien, he's like
yeah,
he's still doing very well and he's going to be good whenever Rodgers or
yeah.
whoever they get in there gets there.
Yeah, it's hard to catch deep balls when your quarterback can't throw it deep, really. So,
No, or yeah, no time to throw it. Anyway, maybe if they get a quarterback, Brees Hall will become what he should be.
maybe.
For Weaves, I'm gonna just go ahead and say Justin Jefferson. Just again, injuries, and where he took him. I mean, Weaves went, with the same philosophy you went with, like not a quarterback but a position player. He took
hmm
Justin Jefferson, first. I think, yeah, I think that was his first pick, and then he only had him for what was that, 4 or 5 weeks, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's hopefully coming back this week, but still, if you miss that much time, like that has to be it.
Well, I mean, and looking at the rest of his team, he's honestly had some good pickups. He's made some good trades. He drafted really well everywhere else. I mean, I think if not for injury, he has a really good team. I mean, he got Puka
Yeah,
Nakua early in the season. He got Rashad White. I think he got him fifth round. So I mean,
yeah, he
he's got a good team otherwise.
no, he does. Yeah, I mean, I traded him. I did the Moser trade with him, and I wish I wouldn't have now, but
Mhm.
that's what it is.
Well, with AJ in there now, hopefully he's becomes a little bit less valuable. You don't have to keep yourself so hard.
No.
Next up we got Crater here. Looking at his team, there is I think his team's got underperformed like in the back half of the season, just kind of deflated a little bit. Adam Thielen had a hot start. Derrick Henry started off the year pretty good, and then I think just kind of over the years, over the season, just kind of deflated. But overall, T. Higgins has probably been the biggest disappointment.
Yeah,
Fourth round pick. I don't think he's had hardly any games over double digits. He's had 3 games over double digits all season. He's missed a lot of time. So for that reason alone, I mean, missing the time is bad enough, but then when you do play, when you have less than 10 points, it's not good. So I gotta give it to him.
yeah, but I mean, still think about that. Like getting T. Higgins in the fourth round still sounds appealing to me. Like right now,
Mm-hmm.
like that. That to me sounds just based off the name like a value pick. Like
Yeah,
it sounds like a
yeah,
steal. So if
and I think
like
at,
I would have
at,
taken him if he didn't.
yeah,
And
no, at
Joe
draft
Burrow
time.
stack, dude. He had a Joe Burrow, T. Higgins stack. Like, think about
Mhm,
how, like, the hopes you have for your team. And then both of
yeah,
those guys just, like, end up kerplunking. That's.
yeah. And I didn't select someone like Gabe Davis. He's been bad a lot of the season, but it's not you don't draft him to be a consistent player. You really draft him to be a boomer bust guy. He has games of 20 plus, and he has games of less than 5 and 1, 2 points. So that's what you draft him to be. But T Higgins, you expect to have 4 or 5 catches a game and get you 12 fantasy points at least a week. It's something like that. But he's just not done that at all.
Yeah, dude. It kind of sucks, man. Like, I hate when that
Yeah.
happens. I mean, that was pretty much my whole team last year, dude. So I know the feeling.
Hmm.
I took Najee in, I think, the second round, or maybe the first round. And he was trash. But anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of Najee Harris, that's the next guy's pick. So that's Grayson Cobb here going with Najee Harris for you. Just because I hate him after drafting him last year in the first round, and you have a pretty good team. Obviously we're tied for second place, so he must be doing well. And Najee is also hurt, so he's just a big pile of turd. And moving on to the next guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Next guy we got up here is Panko. For his team, he's got the. Let me pull his team up. Sorry, my computer's running slightly slow. He's got some good running backs, obviously with Pacheco. But I think for what you drafted, Bijan is my loser for him.
Mhm.
Like we talked about, second round draft pick. We talked about Arthur Smith being kind of a fantasy hater and not letting them catch any balls and not giving him the offense. But it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of the motivation, he's not been the workhorse you drafted him to be. You thought he's going to be, you draft a running back in real life, you draft a running back in the first round in the NFL draft, you expect him to be your guy for the whole season and just put it all on him. But it's not really been the case. And like we talked about with the last guys, he's got a stacked team outside of Bijan. Really, I mean, his quarterbacks are a little bit weak, but losing Trevor Lawrence isn't really, that's also a recent thing. But yeah, Bijan, he's not been what he should have been.
No, I agree, man. I took Bijan in a different league just to do the experiment and see. I mean, he is a freak if you watch him play. Like,
Yeah,
that's no doubt. Like you said, though, Arthur Smith, man, he's kind of the worst. I'm just gonna do my last two here real quick because we're
yeah.
kind of we need to move on. But I'm gonna just go ahead and say Bryce. Oh, hang on one second. Never mind. I just got a breaking news thing about Puka Nakua. Puka Nakua
Oh,
is limited in practice today. But anyway,
mm,
Bryce. So for Bryce, I'm going to just say Josh Jacobs just because of where he finished at last year with being the RB1. At the end of the season, like you drafted
mm,
him hoping that was going to happen. He did have that whole thing, with training camp and all that. So I guess you kind of know that or knew that was going to happen or could be a possibility, but he still drafted him anyway. And then for Greco, I'm just going to go ahead and say Devontae Adams. That's a big one. He's again quarterback play has killed him, but at the same time, like he just hasn't been a first round pick.
No, not been the first round pick you want. I'll go ahead and breeze through this last one. Last guy here is Wiley. Looking at his team, also stacked at wide receiver, at quarterback, everywhere, really good. And in his plethora of running backs, Austin Eckler has been the one that's disappointed the most, probably. Him and Tony Pollard have been close, but the fact that you draft Austin Eckler in the first round and he's just been just terrible, really just not really bad, honestly. He's like the 26th running back and he's your first round pick. So yeah, gotta be Eckler. Just super disappointing.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we'll go ahead and move into week 13 previews real quick. We got me and you playing this week. This is a big implication match here. If I beat you, we will be tied for second, I think. If Grayson loses, and hopefully I'll have the most points for, and that would put me in a first round bye with Wiley. If he wins, if not, we don't know what will happen. This is the second time we've played in 3 weeks. Clayton did have a lot of injuries this year, that are going to hurt his chances for a championship. I can't seem to win. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully we can figure that out as the championship goes on. Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
been performing, so I think that's also kind of contributing to it. You want to go through Weaves and Bryce real quick?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, well, hopefully all my team can just ball, and I don't have to worry about all that garbage. You beating me. I'm pretty under. I have a huge line against me, so that's not good.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Weebs and Bryce. Weebs is favored by 25 points, and he's trying to stay in the hunt for this playoff fight. He is in fourth place.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, third place. Bryce missing Brian Robinson to bye this week, so that's going to hurt his chances of climbing out of that last place gutter he is in. And Josh Jacobs is back though, so he'll just pop him in and replace him there. So it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting. It's going to be close. It's not. It might not be that close, but it has a lot of implications for last place and playoff run. So
Yeah, I know. If Weaves wins, then Bryce is pretty much nailed in, I think, in the last place because Greco's got Panko this week, and I have a feeling that Greco is going to win. I don't know why. Greco's hot, man. We like Greco right now. Remember that water bet's still on the table. Anywhere you want to talk about that one, let me know.
that's right. That's right.
Wiley and Crater here. So Crater has now lost 5 in a row. If he loses this one, I would love to see him win. That would just throw things into a whirlwind, I think, because if you beat me this week, then that puts you guys both tied up. It would be a little bit wild. But Derrick Henry possibly being out for Crater is going to hurt that. Tony Pollard, like you said, is heating up a little bit. Nico Collins is now the primary target in Houston too. He blew it up last week, and I think he'll do it again this week too. You have any other thoughts on Craters or Wiley's team here?
Um, I mean, really, just that Prater can pull off an upset and hopefully bring Wiley down to our level and not put him in sole possession of first place. I mean, you hope that Derrick Henry can play. I think he was going through concussion protocol or something like that, maybe. So hopefully he does not sit out that week.
Right.
Next up we got here Panko and Greco matching up. Panko 6 and 7. Greco still in last place with Bryce. Greco is favored by 14 points right now. Actually, the line is adjusted since Panko made an adjustment. He's got 1 point line now. Christian Watson, Debo playing good at the right time for Panko. Of course, I traded him away at the wrong time for me, unfortunately, but that is fantasy football. Panko, hopefully Trevor Lawrence can make a comeback for a playoff run for him, but it doesn't look like I talked about before. It sounds like he broke his ankle, so I don't think that will happen. So, and Chuba Hubbard for Greco is playing good. It doesn't look like he needs him, but he's playing good if he does need backup. So maybe he'll flex him in there. And Zay Flowers his first week as wide receiver one on the as a starting the game as wide receiver one, so that might be pretty big for him possibly.
Yeah, seeing Chuba have a big week definitely also puts that nail in the Miles Sanders coffin.
Mm,
I think I just wanted Miles Sanders to be good, man. You know what I mean? Like he was 1,000
yeah.
yard rusher in Philadelphia, but I think the line had a lot to do with that. No, Zay Flowers is coming into his own, man. I like to see him doing well. You know what I mean? Catching a
Mm-hmm.
lot of points is going to be a PPR monster next year. I think that team needs to evolve past Mark Andrews as far as being like that. How the offense funnels is through him. I think they just need to have him be a complementary role to somebody and go after a true wide receiver one. But
Yeah.
anyway, down here we'll talk about Hartzell and Fisher real quick. This also another one with big implications. G. Scott and Fisher still have that bet going on. Let's talk about that for a second real quick. So they're
Mm-hmm.
both 5 and 8. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever happens this week basically determines who's caddying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like Fisher. Like I mean, there's a plethora of possibilities here, but most likely, in my opinion, is that G. Scott loses, and so does Fisher, and I think they both go down to 5 and 9.
Okay.
Which would then tie somebody, either, if Bryce and Greco both win for last place. So they do somebody who one of those two guys could finish in last place and have to caddy at Lonnie Poole on top of doing
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think we may have found our water bet, because I would be willing to take Fisher in this game. I think Fisher actually could win this week. I think he might kind of spoil Hartzell's chances of getting in, because I think Hartzell does need a win to get in, I believe. So if you're willing to do the water bet on this game, I would be willing to take Fisher's team on this.
Let me look at it really quick. I'm gonna look at the matchup really quick. You want to go ahead and talk about Grayson and G. Scott?
Yeah, sure. Let me get it pulled up here.
Uh,
Grayson and G. Scott have another close game, and it's another kind of a similar implication as we were talking about just a second ago. Obviously, Greg G. Scott's still involved in this game, but Grayson's at 8-5. He's trying to stay in second place with a loss. I think he's 100% guaranteed to get in, but so he really just doesn't really matter for him, I think, at this point. But it's still a close game. Ramondre Stevenson is out for G. Scott, so that's not good for his chances. Up Noah Brown, though, for him, it may see an uptick in targets as well with Tank Dell going down, so maybe he can make up some there. And Tyler Conklin possibly hurt for Grayson, so you have to play Jordan Reed.
Note in here about Grayson having to play Najee Harris. Yeah, you never happy about sticking him into your lineup. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's going to play this week. I think they were talking about that today, but I think this is going to be a big Jalen Warren week. But no, I'm not going to take that bet with you. I think Fisher's going to win that game too. I just looked at their teams. I think I would put my money on Fisher any day. Water bet I'm looking at. Let's see here. I mean, I'd like to throw it on our game, honestly, but because the rest of the, I mean, do you think? All right, well, let's make our picks then, really quick. So, do you think? I mean, I think I beat you this week. I think it's hard not to say that when I'm projected 160.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. What do you say there?
I mean, yeah, you're projected. You have me by 30 points. So I mean, I think that's a pretty clear. That's why I want to try and get one of these games that are 1 point line. The last 3 games we've touched on. Greco, Panko, Fisher, Hartzell, and Grayson G. Scott are all 1 point lines. So it could really go either way. What about the Weaves and – I'm sorry, not Weaves and Bryce. The Greco and Panko. What do you think about that game?
Greco, Panko, man, I'm looking at it. I mean, Panko just waxed me, put 190 up on me, so it's hard not to, feel a little scarred from that. So, I mean –
I'll take Panko.
Huh?
If you want to take Greco, I'll take him. I'll take Panko.
I'll take Panko. You take Greco.
Okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, I can do that.
Then. All right.
Another
dang! I'm switching off of Greco. He won me 20 last week. We'll see how it goes.
This is the even out the water bet. So this is if I win this one, we're square. It's good.
That's good. You want to just go through real quick and make picks? I'm going to go me in our game. Weaves versus Bryce, Wiley versus Crater, Panko versus Greco, Fisher versus Hartzell, and then I'm going to say G. Scott versus Grayson.
Yeah, I'm going to go you in our matchup, and then Weebs against Bryce. I'm going to go Wiley against Crater, and then I'm going to say Greco against Panko, and then Fisher over Hartzell, and Grayson over G. Scott. I mean, it's almost identical picks. Yeah. What'd you say the last one?
G. Scott.
Oh, you said G. Scott. Okay, yeah. I think Grayson will.
We'll do a second on that one. Another 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
All right. It's a bet. Let's go do it, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. See you guys.